Shalom, Akim. I want to start off by giving all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rakakadash. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone who taught me this truth. Salutations to the hopeful elect that's around the four corners of the earth. And also the brothers that teach the word in sincerity. Come back at you with another lesson to talk about this article. Basically how the white population is decreasing. Which are the Edomites according to the scriptures. So I'm going to just get into the article. It says census data U.S. is diversifying, white people shrinking. It says no racial or ethnic group dominates for those under age 18, and white people declining in numbers for the first time on record in the overall U.S. population. That's the Hispanic, so-called Hispanics, which are Israelites, and Asian, which are Moabites. Populations boomed this past decade according to the 2020 census data. And that's basically because if you understand that, being left few in number is one of the curses, from the scriptures. And I'm going to get that real quick because what? Like the Native Americans, like the so-called African Americans, was just the Southern Kingdom. We were left few in number, and that's one of the curses. And I'm going to get that. Yeah, because these curses are coming upon our enemies. This is the book of Deuteronomy 28 and 62. And ye shall be left few in number, whereas ye were as the stars of the heaven for a multitude. Yeah, because it was a point in time, back in the ancient days, we still make up the mass, majority. Our people make up the mass majority of the population of this world. But during the ancient times, we were a race full of individuals, So let me get it. This is Deuteronomy 28 and 62. And ye shall be left few in number. Yeah, because what do they call us today? They call us quote unquote minorities. Whereas ye were as the stars of heaven for the multitude, meaning it was many of us at one point in time. Because thou wouldest not obey the voice of the Lord thy power. Right, and I bring this out just to basically show you that, this is one of the main curses we're under, pertaining to Deuteronomy 28th chapter. And it's coming upon our enemies. According to this article. It says the figures released Thursday by the U.S. Census Bureau offer the most detailed portrait yet of how the country has changed since 2010 and will also be instrumental in redrawing the nation's political maps. The numbers are sure to set off an intense partisan battle over representation at a time of deep national division and fights over voting rights. The numbers could help determine control of the House in the 2022 elections and provide an electoral edge for years to come. Right, and this is basically the curses coming upon our enemies. ESAU, Edom is going to be left few in number. How we were left, few in number. How they say, talking about the Gadites and the Reubenites, how they're, 0.7% of the population because of the mass killing that ESAU, Edom has, did to the northern kingdom, And also, like I said at the beginning of the lesson, we make up the mass majority, even though they say minorities, It says the data also will shape how 1.5 trillion in annual federal spending is distributed. The data offer a mirror not only into the demographic changes of the past decade, but also a glimpse of the future. To that end, they show there is now no majority racial or ethnic group for people younger than 18, as the share of non-Hispanics. Right, it's no such thing. You basically go through the seed of your father. Because what? ESAU Edom made up this whole crap of what color you are represents your race. If you light skin or if you, talking about the Hispanics, if you light skin or if you look like a so-called white person, that means you're automatically white. But it's a thing called confusion of faces according to the Bible. I'm not trying to, direct too far off the topic, but how they say, so-called white Hispanics and things like that. Those so-called white Hispanics, are Israelites. Because what? We don't go based off skin color. We go based off the spirit. ESAU Edom tries to do this to basically make himself look like he's more of the population, even though he's not. And the age group dropped from 53.5% to 47.3% over the decade, right? And this is how Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai is doing, Let me see if there's anything left on this article, because I'm not going to make it too long. It says the share of children in the U.S. declined because of falling birth rates, while the share of adults grew driven by the aging baby boomers. And you have to understand also that, these so-called white women is getting with a lot of Jake men, Adults over 18 made up more than 3/4 of the population in 2020, or 258.3 million people, an increase of more than 10% from the 2010. However, the population of children under 18 dropped from 70.2 million in the 2010 to 73.1 million in 2020. If not for Hispanics, Asians, people of two or more races, and like I said before, the whole, it's no Hispanics are Israelites, If not for Hispanics, Asians, people of two or more races, those are the only groups underage that are growing, said William Frey, a senior fellow at Brookings Metropolitan Policy Program. A lot of these young minorities are important for our future growth, not only for the child population, but for our future labor force. And let me get a precept, because like I said before, all these curses are coming upon our enemies. Being left few in number, which I read back in Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter. People being left few in number is happening to these so-called white people. So this is the book of Deuteronomy 30:7. And the Lord thy power will put all these curses upon thy enemies, and on them that hate thee, which persecuted thee. All right, starting with the so-called white man, the Edomites, they were the first ones, even to this day, to persecute us, How we're under the curses of Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter right now, is going to be added on to them. And we're seeing the sign of that right now. Because what? They're being left few in number. Because what? You need to understand is things like I said before, you have Edomite women, going out seeing Jake men. And you have, a lot of those so-called white people is on that opioid crisis, which is taking a lot of them out, And that's a sign of these curses coming upon our enemies. And that's a beautiful sign. It says the Asian and Hispanic populations burgeoned from 2010 to 2020, respectively, increasing by another a third and almost a quarter over the decade. The Asian population reached 2.4 million people in 2020, and the Hispanic population hit 62.1 million people. And like I said before, the so-called Hispanics are Israelites, make up the Northern Kingdom. The Hispanic boom accounted for almost half of the overall U.S. population growth, which was the slowest since the Great Depression. By comparison, the non-Hispanic growth rate over the decade was 4.3%. The Hispanic share of the U.S. population grew to 18.7% of the U.S. population, up from 16.3% in 2010. The 2020 census confirmed that we have known for years the future of the country is Latino, said Arturo Vargas, CEO of the National Association of so-called Latino elected and appointed officials educated fund. I'm going to read this last paragraph, and I'm going to jump into the last precept. As the share of so-called white population fell from 63.7% in 2010 to 57.8% in 2020. The lowest on record, driven by falling birth rates among white women. And like I said before, not only is white women's birth rates are falling down, but what? A lot of them are going out with Jake men, having Jake's children. Compared with the Hispanic and Asian women, the number of non-Hispanic white people shrank from 196 million in 2010 to 191 million. It says white people continue to be the most prevalent racial or ethnic group through that change in California, where Hispanics became the largest racial or ethnic group, growing from 37.6 to 39.4. And like I said before, we're not the minority; we're the majority, of this, of this country. If you really look at it, we have the Southern Kingdom and we have the Northern Kingdom, as a whole. Because at the end of the day, we're separated by bad words and proverbs and bad words like Mexican, African American, Latino, African, whatever the case may be. But once you put our people in as a whole, we make up one group because we are the same people, and we make up majority of this country, But with that being said, I'm gonna just bring out one more I don't want to make it too long, but if you want to read the rest, it's from AP News. It says U.S. is diversifying, white population is shrinking. And that's the case. Because like I said before, these curses are coming upon our enemies. This is Jeremiah 30:16. Therefore, all they that devour thee shall be devoured, and all thine adversaries, every one of them shall go into captivity. Right, it's one of the curses that's going to befall our enemies also. How we had to go into captivity, they're going to go into captivity. They're going to be left few in number. how we were left few in number, they're going to be left few in number. And they that spoil thee shall be a spoil, and all that prey upon thee will I give for a prey. Or like how we are prey and how we be killed on a daily basis, the same thing is going to happen to them. I just wanted to basically bring out this last precept for the lesson. How we're being devoured right now, how we're called a minority, they're going to be called a minority. The cup, as the scriptures, basically puts it, the cup is going to pass on to them. So Lord, I hope this is edifying to the elect. I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shah, Ba'ashem, Rakakadash. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of the great millstone who taught me the truth. Salutations to the hopeful elect that's around the four corners of the earth, and also the breast that teaches word and sincerity. Lord, I hope this is edifying, and Lord, I'll come back with another lesson soon. Shalom.